The fire hose of vibe-coded AI slop will not stop, but our friends at Microsoft have the answer. Hypervelocity Engineering! So I've been going through Microsoft's open source stuff on this topic, hypervelocity engineering, their documentation, and some internal stuff that I can't share. And even if you're not a Microsoft shop, this is probably going to impact you because this is basically the Silicon Valley bros leaking into enterprise, all right? So as a quick intro, Microsoft use this hypervelocity engineering methodology internally, and they've been doing it across their industry solutions engineering team, which is basically Microsoft Consulting. Okay, so this is what they are trying to do on all of their projects, is to use AI to hypervelocity accelerate the software engineering life cycle. Everybody in the Microsoft ecosystem is going to be impacted by this, from mum and pop .NET shops to big corporate guys. This is going to leak everywhere. Okay, so we should pay some attention to this seriously. So what are people doing today with their AI tools? Yeah, if you're at a quite low maturity level, you will just be opening Copilot chat, you'll type a prompt, paste the result back in, accept it, move on with our lives. But this isn't engineering, this is vibe coding, all right? And it's going to get everybody in a lot of trouble, okay? There's no structure, there's no verification, there's no persistence between sessions. I mean, normally the system will have forgotten what you did the day before. It can be really useful. You can do some great one-shot cracking demos. And when it works, it's great. When it doesn't work, it sucks. But you will normally end up with a giant pull request that nobody understands, or a load of slop with security holes in it. In Microsoft Docs, they put this pretty bluntly, okay? They say, AI code is still your code. And if you can't explain it, understand it, maintain it, or support it, don't ship it, which sounds fair enough to me. But sadly for this boomer, this .NET boomer, okay, who used to hand crank his C# code, he loved it, right? The question isn't, should we use AI to write code anymore, all right? That ship has well and truly sailed away. It's left the platform, okay? We have to catch up because the industry will demand it of us, or we won't be competitive. We won't be able to build anything, ever. It'll just be us doing some weird artisan thing that nobody will pay for, and we will all starve, all right? So the question is, how can we actually use this AI stuff without burying ourselves in technical debt? And that is the industry's #1 challenge at the moment. Hypervelocity engineering is Microsoft's proposed answer to this problem, right? And they describe it as expert multidisciplinary teams using AI tools, proven starting points, and design thinking across the entire life cycle. Design thinking is basically consulting, genuine actual consulting, the stuff that us engineers on various parts of the spectrum don't particularly want to do, but we won't have a choice anymore. They claim, and this sounds like, your X/Twitter tech bro yap, 2 to 3 times faster delivery, half the team sizes from what they used to use. They have 3 or 4 people on a team instead of 10. I don't know what you were doing with 10 people on the team anyway, but I guess that was your average Agile Scrum dev team, right? And 30% of the code at Microsoft is now written by AI, they claim. So they use this internally and externally with their customers. Hypervelocity engineering, according to the documentation, has 4 key parts, right? Multidisciplinary teams. These are those full stack engineers I keep banging on about. We don't just have a little bit of front end, a little bit of back end, a DBA, an architect, a QA. Everybody ends up doing everything. You are a software engineer, okay? Design thinking, which is basically consulting all over again. Proven starting points, so you have to use accelerators. You don't rewrite or recreate hypervelocity engineering on every single project. And use agents across the entire life cycle. AI does everything from requirements checking to validation at the end. That's what they want you to do. And that is the future of this industry, despite what us poor boomers, us poor balding boomers have to say about it. If you are a software engineer like me, okay, you've been doing Agile Scrum for ages. So you're saying, Agile's already fast. Well, yes, it is. Agile is agile. Agile Scrum, we've been doing this for decades now. Do you remember Scrum Masters? Yeah, at least we're not going to have Scrum Masters in all of this, all right? I see that the principles of Agile in hypervelocity engineering are still there, all right? We ship working software, we iterate, we keep talking to the customer. Sometimes we've forgotten how to do that in normal Agile, but anyway, we respond to change, okay? That's what we do. Most of the ceremony of Agile, right, accumulated to compensate for slow humans, all right? You know those annoying stand-ups and those annoying retrospectives and all this slop you have to deal with every week? Your week is full of calendar meetings. It's because humans have been really crap at this process, all right? If you think of hypervelocity engineering as super agile or agile squared, you're getting the hang of it. Things that used to take 2 weeks now need to be compressed again down to 2 or 3 days with the same quality rigor. That is the dream. Do you remember those Agile Scrum loops on graphic PowerPoints that all the consultants used to whip out? Do you remember the SAFE, Agile Release Train? Choo choo, let's all get on the train. Well, hypervelocity engineering is being described as multiple parallel development cycles in some sort of messed up whirlwind vortex of productivity. You should see some of the graphics that are coming out on this. Story points and planning poker, thank God, consigned to the dustbin of history, as it should have been, because the plan itself is the contract with the AI agent. You create the plan first, right? No more backlog refinement, okay? The research agent reads your code base and writes the backlog for you. Or as one of the examples that Microsoft use, is they just take a meeting transcript to use the Azure DevOps MCP server to automatically create the work items that the customer wants based on those transcripts, okay? It's wild. So it's still iterative and incremental, but I think is that if you try to squint a bit, okay, you can see that this is moving software engineering again from what was a creative team sport, almost like making a movie, all right, into more of an engineering discipline, like actual engineering jobs, okay? I mean, I think calling it Agile squared is a nice analogy, because in old Agile, one dev was one dev, right? But in hypervelocity engineering, one dev is orchestrating a little mini team of agents. And you might have seen one of my old videos on the squad thing that they were coming up with. But that is sadly the direction that Microsoft and enterprise software want you to go over the next few years. And we're not going to have a choice, okay? So how do you level up? How do you level up to hypervelocity engineering? Well, step one, okay, is moving from prompt engineering, which is just spacking what you want built into Copilot or Claude or whatever, and moving into context engineering. And context engineering is a bit like this, okay? The entire information pipeline of your product and your work items and how to verify the work is all available to the agent, to the AI LLM that you're using. You tell it what documentation it has access to, what coding conventions you want to use, and it also has all the context from all the work you did yesterday, which if you just started a brand new chat session with Copilot, you wouldn't have, all right? Context is so important because it actually lets you use cheaper models, right? You don't have to bankrupt yourself or your employer if there's actual work on the context before using it in the model. A small model with good context can outperform something twice its size, is what Microsoft claims, and they have the data, so I kind of believe them. Practically, what this means you need to do is, if you've never written or got the agent to write a Copilot instructions file and stick it in your repository, you haven't told your AI what patterns and libraries you should be using when writing code on this particular project, and 80% of the value is left on the table, okay? It doesn't matter what model you use. You need to level up from just spacking prompts in and designing the context for your AI to use. All right. I know this is painful for a boomer like me, but this is the way it's going. So how does Microsoft do it? This is it, the money shot, boys. Okay. The actual workflow that Microsoft use for their customer work and their internal work. They call it RPI: research, plan, implement, and then review. All right. Discover is a fifth phase, but we'll ignore that. RPI is a name that they stick with. Each is handled by a different agent. They've created agents for their AI LLMs to use. And then by using this process, the agents can hand off work. First, there's a research agent. It goes off and reads code base, your APIs, your conventions, documentation, but it's not allowed to write code. Okay. It can't write code. It just has to plan and research, which is fine. Okay. I mean, that's actually, if we were engineers, the first thing we do shouldn't be to write code. Okay. We should actually research the task and create some evidence, right? It gets file references and then comes up with a recommended approach, because then it sends it over to the planning agent for phase 2. All right. This takes the research and produces an explicit plan with even some line numbers in some cases, I'm told. All right. Something then validates the plan to make sure that it's okay against the research and the context that you've given your AI LLM. And it tries to catch design issues before the code is written. So phase 3 is implement. Now we can write some code, okay? You might still have some bit of fun with this. Maybe you can actually do some coding for a change. But in reality, there's probably a coding agent, and you will need to handhold it and review the work. Because phase 4 is review, all right? And you're supposed to create automatic checks and hooks and making sure that the linting passes and who uses style cop. This is the equivalent, okay, of when you had these weird people that insisted on using style cop on every single project. But basically, you have to check the work. So you've got agents, AI checking AI to keep it all on track. And this is kind of checks and balances for the real engineering work. It can be tough to swallow for us creatives, but that's what they want us to do. Here's a quote from the big boys, Microsoft themselves. Okay, when AI knows it cannot implement during research, it stops optimizing for plausible code and starts optimizing for verified truth. Okay, the constraint changes the optimization target. All right, constraints make AI better, not worse. So the more context you have, the better the result you're going to get when you finally get round to asking it to build your app for you. They even have this thing called phase bleed. Would you believe it? That sounds pretty bleak to me. They leak phases together, and this really does a bad job on their AI-assisted efforts, is what Microsoft say. But the good news is this isn't just an idea. All right, Microsoft have published the same tools that they use with their consulting customers. All right, you don't have to build all this yourself. They've open sourced the whole toolkit. It's called HVE Core. Right, it's a VS Code extension. There's a GitHub Copilot CLI plugin, and the source code is at github.com/Microsoft/HVE-core. This is how you install it: VS Code, install extension, IC HVE essentials.hve core is what you want. This gives you an entire dump of Microsoft's entire AI development stack. All right, you've got agents, research, planning, implementation, review, PR review, DocOps, whatever the hell that is, conventional commit messages, prompt evaluation, coaching agent that actually teach you how to do design thinking and be a proper user-centric consultant. There's memory agents. There's the whole works. All right. They've even got some coding standards for your favorite programming languages such as C#, my favorite, obviously, and obviously Python, Bash, TypeScript. It's all there. Okay. They've really, really, really published the kitchen sink. So time for some advice. We'll close this rant off with some advice for those boomers out there like me that want to get started because they want to pay the bills. And if they don't do this, they will probably eventually at some point get out-competed in the market. All right. So you need to stop one-shotting stuff. Okay. You need to create a plan. Next time you have a task that you want to use AI with, force yourself to create 2 prompts, okay? Research this, do not write code, and then propose a plan, all right? You don't have to use the actual HVE core stuff for this. You can just practice when you're doing your yapping, but plan first, all right? The next step is to try the HVE core stuff, okay? You can copy and paste some of the useful agent code, the agents, into your skill set library in your repository and share it amongst your team. So this is like Copilot instructions, for example. Step 3 is to write that file, all right? Pick something you care about, like testing or secrets management or UX design or whatever, or your favorite libraries. Like my instructions file would say, don't use AutoFixture, for example, or AutoMapper, okay? All right? Particularly don't use AutoMapper. And put it in Copilot instructions.md, okay? And the AI LLM will never use it. And if it does accidentally use it randomly, another agent will check it against the instructions and make sure that you didn't accidentally put automapper in your source code, for example, all right? So in closing, is this going to change your life? Well, I don't think it's going to change our lives, our side projects, all right? Because actually, prompt engineering is fun. It's like pulling a slot machine. Will I get it right this time? Okay. But when you're working with a team and you're using these very expensive tools, all right, you kind of owe it to the poor gits paying your token bills to do this properly, right? And make sure that you're not wasting everybody's time and money and GPU usage, okay? So Microsoft have done this for you. I mean, they get the luxury, obviously, of unlimited GitHub Copilot tokens, I'm assuming. So some of their advice and shilling on X is a bit difficult for us plebs to also replicate. But anyway, we still should try and do some actual engineering here. If you think of it as super agile or super mega ultra agile, which I think we should coin in this video, or agile squared is a bit of a lazy way of doing it. We need to be up to date on this, because at some point you'll be asked to do a project this way, and if you haven't practiced with it, you'll be stuck. You won't even be able to wipe your own butt, okay? And you'll look very stupid, right? So this is, at least, I actually think this is better than Agile Scrum, okay? It's better than story points, planning poker, therapy retrospective sessions. All of that is meatware, humans. And this is way smarter and more concise. And if we can get used to it, okay, and actually focus our human skills on the consulting aspect of our projects, well, maybe we'll be happier. Maybe software engineers will be happier. Let me know what you think. Is hypervelocity engineering going to be total slop, disaster for the industry? Or will it be a saving grace and turn us into proper, real professionals? Let me know in the comments. I'll reply to every single one. But why not subscribe? Because I'm going to do a video where I update one of my apps using this methodology, and it's probably going to be next. Thanks for watching.